And now it's time to move into today's session. It is a true privilege to introduce our speaker, retired Brigadier Tejendra Pal Singh Badhawa.
Our speaker brings a powerful blend of leadership, lived experience, and reflective insight shaped through the years of distinguished service in the Indian Army. It in roles that demanded not just operational excellence, but also emotional intelligence, decision making under pressure.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here in such large numbers. I understand this is the last session, the 10th session. So you've been through 18 hours of mental grinding. So tolerate these 2 hours more. Stay with me. Bear with me. And thank you for to Enon Foundation, Global Foundation, for giving me this opportunity, giving me this chance to interact with buzzing minds and young professionals, because teaching is one of those professions that influences people long after the classroom moment is over. If there is one person that we always and always remember, is the teacher that impacted us the most during our schooling days. And for us Fauji's, the instructor that shaped us in our training academies, whether be it NDA, the IMA, OTA, or CTW. So thank you very much for this opportunity. So without wasting any time, I would like to keep today's session as real, reflective, and practical as possible. And I hope we can make this a genuine conversation rather than merely a talk or a lecture or a ML from my side. The 3 C's of effective teaching. There can be many more C's than this. There can be, credibility. There can be communication. There can be clarity. There can be constructive feedback. So many other C's, but then I have chosen these 3 because these 3, to my mind, matter the most. These lay the foundation of effective teaching. Okay, now let me begin with something very, very simple but honest. And this is my inner feeling too. How many of you teachers today believe that teaching today has become more demanding, more challenging than ever? You can raise your hands, give me a reaction, or insert a response in the chat box. Yeah, that's what you think? Okay, that's what I think too. And now let me ask you a slightly more uncomfortable question. What has changed, but why? Do you think the challenge is only that the students have changed? It's as I call them 2026, or possibly the kids that are there with you, Gen Z models, far more complex. Or is it that the role of the teacher today has become far more complex than when you were students and you were being taught by your simplistic teachers? So what would that be? Is it the student side, or is it the teachers themselves? So as I see it, teaching today demands much more than just the subject knowledge. It demands attention, it demands emotion, it demands engagement, and it demands relevance. Today, the teachers are not just expected to deliver lessons, go to a classroom, ask the kids to pick up their books, go to page number so and so, or solve out a problem, writing it on the board, and spend the entire 30-40 minutes in solving that problem. And that's the end of the day. That's it. Today, they are expected to hold attention, create engagement, manage the emotional energy which is there in this Gen Z, and stay relevant. And doing all this still somehow make learning meaningful, exciting, and interesting. I agree it's not a small demand, but that's what the situation today is. That's the predicament that the teachers today are facing. And this is where I think we need to shift the lens. Because if knowledge alone were enough, every knowledgeable person would automatically become a great teacher. They say that every great player cannot be even a good coach. Taking it to the classrooms, every bright student, the best student of the class, cannot make the best instructor. I hope you all agree with this. So, what is the change now if it's not knowledge? I think great teaching requires something much deeper, insight. It is shaped by who you think you are, how you think, and how effectively you practice your role as a teacher. If you take your role just as a 9 to 5 teacher, goes to a class, finish up the syllabus, you know, gives the test to the students, evaluates them, and judges them based on that evaluation, then there is nothing much to be done. But if you think that your role goes far beyond that, and you are the role model, you are the person, you are the architects, you are the sculptors of India's tomorrow, that is where the difference comes in. That is where you start going deeper. Next slide, please. And today, I'm not here to give you a lecture. I've been an instructor for good about 10 years of my total service of 37 years. So I know quite a lot about this. I have trained from recruits in the MEGN Center, that is Madras Engineering Group and Center. I was there for about 3 years. I've been an instructor in the Officers Training Academy, an instructor in the Army War College, and an instructor in Cadets Training Wing, CME Pune. So, whatever I'm telling you today is through my own experience, through my own fallings, through my own learnings after having fallen to become a good teacher. Today, I'm going to give you a unique lens. The unique lens comprising character, curiosity, and competence, the 3 C's. It's a way to understand what really shapes learning in a classroom, especially today. We often talk about lesson plans, pedagogy, curriculum, assessment, methods. But beneath all of that, there are 3 deeper forces that shape whether learning truly happens or not. And they are character, curiosity, and competence. And today, I want to explore these not as abstract ideas, but as the hidden operating system of a teacher. 3 living dimensions of effective teaching. Not what looks good on paper, but what actually shapes the classroom. Next slide, please. Let's start with the first C. And this C stands for character. People have different definitions of character. We'll not go into that right now. But one thing I want to tell you here is character is not about appearing ideal. It's not about saying the right things or sounding wise all the time. And it's not about all those school values, which are there on the boards. Each house has got a board, and on there you have all kinds of these ideals written there. It is not about that. It's not about appearing calm and composed when everything is easy, when everything is absolutely going smoothly. Conversely, character is what shows up when your classroom becomes difficult. How does it become difficult? When a student tests your patience, when the room is distracted by one student or a group of students, anything happening outside, and it is taking the attention of the class away from what you're teaching or trying to teach. When your own energy level is low, and when your authority is getting challenged. The last part, I presume, is becoming more prominent these days in classes from 8th, 9th onwards. In our times, it used to be 11 and 12th, where the authority of the teacher itself, and God forbid, if it happened to be a young female teacher, then the authority was always challenged in the class. And she used to have a tough time. So these are situations where your character becomes visible. Okay, let me ask you something. In today's classroom, in your classroom, what triggers you the most in a classroom? Let's have some answers in the chat box, please. Something that puts you off, something that breaks the symphony, something that breaks the flow in which you want to take a class, that puts you off, irritates you. Usually, it's one of the 3 Ds. We spoke about 3 Cs. Now, here are the 3 Ds. Right in your face. I would call them D, first D for disrespect. Second D for disinterest. And the third D for disruption. How many of you agree with me? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay, so let me ask you honestly again. In those moments, who is actually in control of the class? Is it you, the teacher, who's supposed to be the authority, or your reaction to whatever is happening in your class? Because students do not only learn from what we teach, they learn more from how we behave under pressure. You know, the same thing, if you can take an analogy from the army, it's the way that lieutenant these days, we used to be second lieutenants when we joined the service. The way our second lieutenant would behave in a pressure environment inside a regiment, inside a battalion, would define his character for the rest of his service. Similarly, the way a young teacher behaves under pressure in a class, in that pressure environment, that would define how well he or she would be regarded for the rest of her journey as a teacher. Remember that. Because those are moments when authority gives you power to react immediately, right? You can always snub. You can always send one, two, or a group of students outside your class. Get out of the class. March up to the principal. Get your parents tomorrow. But maturity will ask you to respond intentionally in a more structured fashion, in a more balanced fashion. And often the difference between the two is what shapes trust. If you are one of those teachers who would lose their cool, send those kids outside, in our times, they used to make us kneel down outside the class or stand with our hands up. I wonder if these things are still continuing. If you are one of those teachers, you would be forgotten when the kids move over from 9th to 10th, 10th to 11th to the next class. You are a thing of the past. You are the ordinary. But if you behave in a matured fashion, that moment would be remembered forever by your students and you would become their hero. So here's a very simple practice I want to leave you with. As it says, pause, label, and choose. What do you mean by pause? Before reacting instantly, pause and then respond. Do not react to a situation. Second, label. Labeling is a very good technique for mindfulness, for self development. You must label the actual feeling at that particular moment. Is it anger? Is it frustration? Is it your ego? Or is it fatigue? What is it at the moment? And then, thirdly, choose what response will actually help learning happen at this moment. Because not every reaction deserves expression, and not every disruption deserves escalation. Sometimes the strongest thing a teacher can do is to regulate the room by regulating themselves. So we spoke about this. I was looking at the slides of yesterday's session. Therein also one terminology came in as emotional intelligence. A good teacher, a role model teacher, cannot be bereft of emotional intelligence. And self-regulation is part of emotional intelligence. So you must understand what is it and how to practice it. Now, can I ask you very frankly, which one of these would be the hardest for you? Pausing, labeling, or choosing? Just give me a few responses before we move on. All right. So, students do not only learn from what we teach. Remember that. They also learn from how we behave under pressure. Students may not always admire authority, but they deeply respond to authenticity, fairness, and emotional steadiness. I'll give you a brief example here. As we talked about, arming giving you the instant authority. When I was still serving, I was commandant in MEGN Center, Bangalore, and I wielded a lot of authority. So there was never ever, an occasion where my car or myself personally, wherever I went, to whichever occasion, whichever event, was checked by anyone. On the contrary, there was a lot of welcome, and people knew me, and so it was a very easy kind of a situation, and a very comfortable situation that went to one's head. When I retired about 4 years back. I'm now residing in Panchkula, and I have to travel from Chandigarh to Panchkula, and en route is a toll booth. And on the toll booth, practically every day of the week now, at about 6, 7 o'clock till about 10 o'clock, there are these traffic policemen with breath analyzers. And the first time, frankly speaking, I'm just sharing with you, when my car went past, I had so much hubris in me, so much of ego in me that I wouldn't stop the car next to them. So, they followed the car down. And I spoke very, very rudely as to, something akin to, don't you know who I am types. And how dare you, wave my car down and ask me to breathe inside that breath analyzer. My family was sitting with me at that particular point, and they sat in silence as we went ahead. I knew it was a very awkward moment. After crossing the toll, when we were riding ahead smoothly, my daughter just spoke to me. My daughter happens to be, a graduate in a master's in philosophy from Canada. And she said, Dad, that was not expected out of you. This is not what I behold you for. How could you let yourself be belittled by that small little, incursion into your private space? I reflected on that very deeply before I went to bed that night, and I realized my mistake. Thereafter, whenever I'm going through the same toll booth again, I am much more polite. I stop there and I explain my position to them, and I tell them that I don't drink and I would hate to breathe inside the breath analyzer. And they say, "Koi baat nahi saab, aap jaएं." So this is how things change. A tough situation will always bring out the best or the worst in you. It is for you to understand as to where does the balance lie. What makes you a better teacher, a better human being, someone that the students would like to emulate and remember in their coming years. Okay, so the real question is, can students trust the person behind the profession? Can they trust you? So character builds trust. Remember that. And once the trust begins to exist, learning has a chance to come alive in a lively, excitable classroom. Which brings me to the second C, which is curiosity. Next slide, please. Curiosity, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most important energies in education and one of the easiest to accidentally kill. Curiosity is not just about the teacher asking students more questions. It is about keeping learning alive. It is about creating and maintaining a learning environment in the classrooms. In teaching, curiosity has two dimensions, right? Curiosity, one, the student's dimension, and two, the teacher's dimension. The students, the curiosity applies in helping the students think, to discover, and not to receive. And the teachers, it's the teacher's refusal to becoming intellectually stale as a teacher. The same stuff every day. Once you make your syllabus or your lesson plans, we used to call that in the army lesson plans. The lesson plans used to be handed over from one instructor to the other without a change in a comma or a full stop. That is stale teaching. That puts the class to sleep. That propels them towards mugging up your slides or the lesson plans, and vomiting it out verbatim when the time comes. Remember, when the moment a teacher stops becoming curious, teaching starts becoming mechanical. We must understand that students can feel a difference between a teacher who's merely covering the syllabus and a teacher who's mentally alive inside the subject. Let's compare two questions. Teaching biology, 7th, 8th grade, the teacher comes and asks, what is photosynthesis? And he or she gets a verbatim answer right from the textbook, page number so and so, paragraph number so and so. Photosynthesis is the process of this. Versus he or she comes and asks, what would happen if plants stop making food for the next 48 hours? Now, which question do you think is going to wake up the brain more or wake up the brain at all? I think the answer is fairly simple. Curiosity, remember, is created when the mind encounters uncertainty. Small example, you send your son or daughter to, she's got let's say, a small little package to be sent to another friend in another place. And she comes and gives it to you, he or she, and he says, Ki, Dad or Mom, this package has to be sent at the following address to so and so place, right? So what is she doing? She is living in certainty that my dad knows how exactly this is to be done. The thing will be whatever the procedure is involved. It has actually killed the curiosity or the learning process inside him or her. Instead of that, if one guides the young child that this is the process that you need to do, or find out that how exactly this is supposed to be done and go through those steps, I think the learning is going to be far greater. But unfortunately, many classrooms are too full of answers. I think it is for ease of convenience or the laziness or an inability on the part of the teacher to arouse curiosity in the class. Because once you do that, you have to reimagine the engagement. Arousing the curiosity means a hell of a lot of questions in the class. And on the part of the teacher, a hell of a lot of burden in finding out and giving the correct answers to those questions. So here is a shift I want to offer you today. Move from answer-based teaching to question-based teaching. Now, these three prompts are simple but very, very powerful. What if? Why do you think? And how would this change if? These questions don't just test the memory, they trigger the thought. And this is where the classroom changes, because once students begin to think, engagement stops being forced. Let me share a simple classroom moment with you. A teacher I was speaking to once told me that a student in her class just didn't seem to care, wouldn't participate, avoided eye contact. His assignments were either incomplete or missing. And over a period of time, the label became very clear in the teacher's mind. The boy being disinterested, lazy, and absolutely not serious. And she was absolutely not happy with the child. One day, instead of correcting him again, the teacher tried something different. She didn't ask, why are you not doing your work? She asked, what's making this difficult for you? Can you share with me? The boy hesitated to answer, but eventually he said, I don't understand anything after the first 10 minutes, ma'am. And then I just stopped trying. I just give up. I don't care thereafter. That one answer changed everything. Because the problem is not disinterest. The problem, rather, was confusion. And the behavior we were seeing was just the surface. So, what curiosity does, it doesn't just ask more questions, it asks better questions. And sometimes the difference between labeling a student and understanding a student is just one better question. Let me extend that same situation a little further. The student is not submitting assignments. Now, there are some ways to respond. The teacher asks, why don't you submit your work? So the student says, I forgot, ma'am. Why did you forget? I didn't finish it. Why didn't you finish it? I got stuck. Why did you get stuck? Because I didn't understand the concept. So why didn't you understand the concept? Because I lost track in class and didn't want to ask you again and again for the shame of asking you simple, very easy questions. So by the process of right questioning, we reach the real answer. The problem no longer remains behavior. It becomes understanding. And that is what curiosity does. It moves us from surface reactions to the root understanding of the problem. And sometimes it just takes one more why than we are used to asking. So remember, curiosity is not decoration. It's one of the deepest ways we invite students into learning. And once trust exists because of your character, and learning is alive because you have created enough curiosity in the class, there is still one more thing that determines whether teaching actually creates an impact. And that is the last C, competence. All right. I think this is the part where many young educators, carry silently inside them, because somewhere beneath the surface, many of us are still asking ourselves, am I really good at this? Am I really good enough? What do the kids think about me? What opinion do they carry? Do they think I'm competent? Now, this is not insecurity. This is professional honesty, which should remain with you. As they say about stress, there's something called an optimal stress. From a scale of, let's say, 1 to 7 or 0 to 7, scale of 3, stress of 3.5 is called the optimal stress. That must remain in you for you to be creative, for you to be productive. And this kind of insecurity is actually genuinely doing you a lot of good. When you care about your work, you naturally want to know whether you're actually doing it well or not. Happens to everyone. When I started off my YouTube channel and the online community, there was a lingering doubt in me. You want, as I said, constructive feedback, some kind of an assurance, an affirmation that yes, you're on the right path, you're doing things rightly, and you're being received in the correct manner that you want yourself to be received in. And competence matters because students can feel the difference between someone who's just present in the class and someone who's really prepared, pepped up, someone who's sincere, and someone who's actually effective. There is a difference. Now, let me say something very important here. Competence is not perfection, if that's what you think. It's also not about knowing everything, a Mr. Know All. You wouldn't call that a competent instructor or a teacher. It is also not about never making any mistakes. On the contrary, competence is the ability to create meaningful learning with consistency. I'll repeat this. Competence is the ability to create meaningful learning with consistency. Therein lies your competency. And this matters because good intentions do not automatically create good teachings. As they say, passion by itself is not pedagogy. A teacher may be sincere, but still be unclear in what he's teaching. A teacher may be very caring, but still be ineffective. A teacher may be hardworking and still not yet be as skillful as is desired. And this is not criticism, this is professional growth. And we must all follow this pattern. To me, competence in teaching has three visible paths, as given on this slide: clarity, adaptability, and consistency. What is clarity? Clarity is the question: can students actually understand what I'm trying to teach? Clarity, understanding. Adaptability is, can I shift when they are not getting it, what I'm trying to give it to them? So, adaptability is the shift, the mental mobility, the flexibility of mind. And lastly, consistency. Can I bring quality again and again, not just on my best days? So, consistency is being consistent on every single day, again and again. Competency or competence is not about being impressive, it is about being effective. All right, think of a teacher you still remember with respect. What made them competent? Can you list out those virtues? Can we have something on the chat box, please? Let me tell you, the story of the teacher which I thought was the most competent during my school days. I'm a product of Kendriya Vidyalaya number 1, Jalandhar Cant. There were a lot of teachers, and they were all very, very good in whatever they did. To name a few, we had Mr. Emil Sharma, who used to teach history and who gave us live practical example as to how life, apart from being a very good instructor or a teacher in history, as to what life throws at you and how should you savor each and every taste of life. He was a Hindu Brahmin, and he would tell us about anything, about tasting wine, about having a little bit of, that cannabis or something like that. And he would say, I'm a Brahmin Pandit, but then before I say this, condemn anything or say this is good, I must have experienced it. There was another teacher who was our vice principal, Mr. Tayal, and he would step in sometimes in 9th, 10th to take our maths lectures. There was another teacher, Mr. Satish, who was very good. He used to take the SUPW, Socially Useful and Productive Work classes. There was another teacher and many more like that. But then they all remain very, very faint in our memory. Recently, we had a class reunion, the batch of 1981, when we passed out in 10, after 45 years. And we were got about 31 of us who had come together. And one teacher which unfailingly remained very, very prominently etched in our memories was Mrs. Duggal. Mrs. Duggal used to teach us Hindi. Can you imagine today? I might say this with a little bit of apprehension that teachers from the languages, music, I would say PT or whatever you call it these days, physical education, even computers, they are looked down upon, and they would not be in the list of the favorite teachers or the most impactful teachers in any class. But then here she was, and I don't remember a single lesson that she taught us in Hindi in the class. But her overall persona was so good, like a role model to us. And all of us agreed. And she is now about 82 years old. She's staying in Jalandhar. So all of us went to her place. She hosted us for tea. And we went, touched our feet, and she held our hands and she cried. So she may not be competent. She might have been very, very competent. I don't remember. I was a young boy then in her domain in Hindi. But on the every other field of being an ideal teacher, she scored 10 out of 10, perhaps more. So that I would call a competent teacher. The one who you would still love to go and touch her feet or his feet and say, ma'am, you have shaped what I am today. You have influenced my life. You have changed my life. You have impacted my life like nobody else, even better than my parents. So therein lies the competence in a teacher. A story for all of us. Okay, here's a simple 3-part practice I would leave you with for competence. Right? It's a very simple thing: know, notice, and nurture. The first one, of course, is to know the subject proper. You cannot be a competent instructor, you cannot be an effective instructor or teacher if you do not know the depths of the subject that you are teaching. You have to be clear on what you are trying to teach. So, know is what. Notice is pay attention to confusion, hesitation, disengagement, and misunderstanding in your class. So, noticing is paying attention. And lastly, nurturing. Support the learning process, not just the content delivery. So, if you sum them up, know, notice, nurture is what? Notice is paying attention, and nurture is to support. Remember, competence is not just about what you know, it's about what your students are able to receive because of what you teach, how you teach. Okay, if I have to bring today's conversation into one simple frame, it would be this: character builds trust, curiosity creates engagement, and competence creates impact. And together, character, curiosity, and competence, these create learning. If I have competence but no character, I may teach very well, but my impact, my influence will be very, very minimal. If I have character but no curiosity, I may be respected for who I am, but then I will have mentally dead and absolutely unexcitable atmosphere in the class. And if I have character and curiosity but no competence, I may mean very well, but I would fail to create a meaningful learning environment. And that is why all the three matter together. All right. So, if I can surmise this, character is the person I bring into class. Remember this. Character is the person, the persona, you, instructor, teacher. That is what you bring into the classroom. Curiosity is the mindset that you bring into learning, whether it's an all given mindset, whether it's a curious mindset, whether it's an excited mindset, whether it is a mentally alive mindset, and the classroom environment, that is curiosity. And lastly, competence is the skill you bring into your practice as a teacher. So if you take these three together, character is your persona, your personality. Curiosity is the mindset that you create. And competence is the skill that you bring into teaching. So I want to ask you something very honestly. I don't know whether I'll get an answer or not, but nevertheless, it's part of my script. Not as teachers on paper, but as teachers in practice, as emotionally intelligent teachers. Which of these three do you feel you needed to strengthen most right now? Is it character? Is it curiosity? Or is it competence?
Sir, before you dive into this, I have a situation that I want to share with you,
All
and
right.
then you can always tell whether this teacher is uh, mm, making an impression on the kids or not. 30 years back, 35 years back, I have a teacher named Sandeepa Bagga. She was the one who has a very good personality. She has clarity of the subject, but the only one trait that she is having is that she used to slap. If the child is not able to this uh, speak or narrate the same statement that is there in the copy, if the child is not able to narrate, at that time she has only one thing, that you need to slap on your own in front of the whole class, and this is very disgraceful. And as a result, every child, they study only that biology subject. Now 30 years after this, when we had a meetup with our fellow friends, we were only discussing about that teacher. So everybody is aware of Sandeepa Bagga. We had no discussion about any other great teacher that was there. So क्या इनको हम competent teacher बोलेंगे या
नहीं
क्या बोलेंगे?
नहीं.
Because she has, we have the memory of her only.
See, I think there are two kinds of people that you know tend to remember. Like, needless to say, the worst kind and the best kind, right? So there are two extremities. So you don't remember the people who are in between. You don't remember the people who were very good with you, and sometimes kuch kuch karte the and all that. No, they're ordinary people. But the people who are living on the extreme, the people who are living on the I'll say fringes and the edges, those are the ones which come very, very quickly to your mind. And also remember this, like I can quote you instances from the NDA. One tends to remember periods or moments of adversity much more than periods of jubilation and joy. Do you agree with me? From whatever training that I've had, I still very vividly remember when was I punished? When were we punished together as a squadron, as a course? वो रात को हुआ था, उसने वहां पे 1:30 बजे हमको बुलाया था. उसके बाद we did patti parade and then we ran for 60 kilometers. I remember those things very, very clearly. I do not remember when we won the drill competition. We had a squadron social and we had a good jam session. I don't remember those things. So you either remember you remember extremes. But then, you have to understand as to what value addition did this particular teacher, Mrs. Bagga, bring about in you. Was it only this that she sharpened your memory so that you remember her after 30 years of being a bad instructor or a bad teacher? Or was there, an intent, a desire underneath that slapping, which made you more punctual, which made you in your homeworks, and which made you more, interested in learning the subject as such? If that was the case, she is worth remembering. Then, possibly somewhere it joins the, link somewhere to become as part of her competence. It becomes her virtue. But then if it was only to insult, disgrace, and make you compel so that you don't create an awkward moment for her in the class, then I don't think that can be actually rated as a virtue and a competency asset. So that's the way it is. I remember I was very very young, and I was in Jabalpur, and there was a teacher. Can you imagine a boy of second or third class? And we were, and he was a drawing instructor. I don't remember his name, but I don't remember any instructor from this place, Jabalpur. I remember this one for the particular incident. I was, he had just gone out of the class saying that koi baat nahi karega. And I was possibly chatting away with the person who was sitting next to me. So he came back. First he did was he used to carry a duster. तो उसने duster घुमा के मारा वहां से and hit my back. I was a young boy, second, third class में कितना बच्चा होता है छोटा सा. फिर मेरे पास आके उसने he took my hand and he did this. Do you know? Has anyone gone through this? Pencil बीच में लगा के ना and then you do this. Just try and do this to yourself. It is excruciating. I still remember that particular moment and that particular instructor, the teacher. That doesn't make him a competent instructor, right? But there are other ways. I still remember when I was the house captain and when I went up on the stage, when I started participating, every school has this morning assembly routine. So we used to have one boy and a girl coming every day from each house, giving out the news of the day, and the other one would give the thought of the day and a quiz. So she pushed me up. And the first day when I went up there, I still, quote this incident as part of storytelling for my self development classes. My legs were shaking like two leaves, in a storm. And I looked at her, ki bhai, nikalo main ko yahan se. I'm not fit for this. This is not my domain. I'm absolutely no good at this. But she told me to, stay on, be firm. It happened on the first day, the second day, the third day. A week, 10 days later, I was standing there with little shivering, and thereafter, there was absolutely no shivering at all. I still remember that teacher, who pushed me into adversity just to make me better. So, that kind of an adversity is very, very good, right? But this kind of a thing, merely because, there are a lot of teachers, there are a whole lot of examples. I hope all the ones who are listening to me don't turn out to be those who do not want any challenge in their class, or who do not want any kind of a disruption, as those three Ds that we disrespect, disruption, and so if anything like that happens, they want to quell it immediately. As I said in the army, your rank, your authority gives you the right to quell that thing immediately, an immediate reaction. And one thinks that ki maine sab theek kar diya, now my class is the best behaved class. But that's not the way to deal with these things. You're only showing a very bad memory in the students' minds. It's not a pleasant memory. It is not something that you can relate back to 30 years later and say, yeah, I was doing that thing wrong. I did a mistake. This teacher came and in front of the principal, she said, ki nahi, iski galti nahi hai. Ye, maine kiya hai or whatever. She covered you up and later on, she taught you a good lesson कि बच्चे ऐसे नहीं करते हैं, try and improve, and these are the ways to improve. And you actually did. है ना? You remember those teachers much more than these ones who are basically punitive. आजकल तो I think the teaching and learning environment has improved a hell of a lot in classes. I think even before, I mean, you're younger to me. In my days and in my elder brothers and sisters' days, this was the only answer to all your questions, right? And some very imaginative ones would bring dandas and dusters and all those things. So you dare not ask any questions in class. And any kind of a question was taken as a sign of, challenging the authority. कि how can you say कि ऐसा नहीं होता and can it be done any different way? I'm telling you, this is the way it's supposed to be done. Just write it down. It'll come in the exam. Note it down as an important question. So teaching has to evolve, has to change. है ना? Okay.
Can I also say something?
Yeah. I think I've rushed through my thing like a bullet train. We are only 7 past 8. We have lots of time. Please shoot.
So, Namaskar and Jai Hind, sir.
Yeah.
So, while you were talking about that question, character, curiosity, and competence, which one? But before that, I'll also narrate a small incident.
Yeah.
Well, I have very fond memories of all my teachers, starting from my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Keshwani, such loving, and the way, I mean, I hope she listens to me. I have gone and, always shared my gratitude with her. So, going on to Taru ma'am, to Kiran ma'am, to Dua ma'am, all those, they have been amazing, which enriched my experiences of learning at that time. Having said that, I still remember one of my English teachers, Daya ma'am. So we were supposed to write in cursive, a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, handwriting 2 pages, and it had to be precise. And she was so, you know, um, clear about it that each and every letter had to be in that pudding. And so if
Right.
we not write clearly, she would have a scale, steel scale, and she would hit us on the knuckles. It
Okay.
would hurt at that time. But today I am very grateful to her because that made me write neatly and I'm very good at writing. So this is one thing. Now, coming to this thing, I today had the privilege of visiting my alma mater after 30 years today.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
from a student to a facilitator of workshops. And if I look back, we all learn and grow in our character, curiosity, and competence. If I say I have been perfect, no, I'm still on that path. Yes, I have grown in curiosity. Yes, I have grown myself in character and competence. I think the children who today attended the workshop, probably they would be able to. बट ये जर्नी कहीं खत्म नहीं होती ना सर कि मैं कहूँ कि मैं कॉम्पिटेंट हो गई हूँ
No, ये journey
बहुत
नहीं
experience
खत्म. See, learning is a lifelong, affliction or a disease, right? That comes in when you are mentally aware, right? You are curious to learn more, to become better. I would not say perfect. Nobody is perfect, right?
yes
To become better in your profession, better at whatever you do, right?
yes
I've shifted from the army now to this place. I'm learning. For this presentation, I had to work through and learn as to what exactly is this. I mean, this is the first time I'm addressing teachers. I've always been addressing either students, in colleges, IITs, or the army officers in the army. So this was also a learning for me.
agree
I could have easily said, once you approach me, I could have easily said, no, this is not my cup of tea. But then, the idea lies in improving oneself. And improvement is lifelong, it goes beyond even life. So that is where the heart of the competency lies.
राइट तो सर मेरे को तो तीनों में ही काम करना है अभी मैं तीनों में ही अभी वीक हूँ अभी द जर्नी इज कंटिन्यूइंग
Okay, I just, went through a couple of responses there. And okay, people have written all three. And I would like to speak to K. Shweta, St. Thomas School, Loning, Ghaziabad. And she's particularly Renu Gurunath, ma'am, my English teacher. So can she come up, unmute herself and come on? And tell us why exactly Gurunath ma'am is the one that she adores so much.
Educators
Hello,
who
sir.
have
Very good
the
evening.
privilege, you can please go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, Shweta.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, so tell us, why do you adore Mrs. Gurunath?
So actually, when she was our English teacher since sixth class, she was continuously there for 6 to 9,
Okay.
and at that time of period, now, there are many things that are going back of your head, like
there are many things like, and you like my family situation, just to say that my father was also in army. And
Wow.
I do remember when I was in 7th grade, now Kargil war happened,
Okay.
and it still touches me. Like my father was there, not directly but third line, and it was an army school. I'm from KB school, and
Wow.
like like at home I cannot express myself, and at home it becomes a really, I'm sorry, I'm crying right now. That time, no, it was really hard. So
Okay.
she was the one. She was always there. Like, I'm sorry. Like, so it's an emotional connect for me too.
Yeah. I can understand. Yeah, your voice is breaking down. Okay, you're so emotional right now. Okay, fantastic. People like that who really make an impact in your life, tend to be in your memories all through your life. And it's a wonderful, the best relationship in the world is the student teacher relationship, right? I told you about my school teacher. I also very, very fondly remember my instructors who were there in NDA, IMA, and thereafter so many courses that we did. You only pick one or two out of them. One or two out of them qualify or appeal to you as the ones that you should relate to, that you should keep in your memories, that you should affectionately and fondly call upon in your memories. So you're lucky you have such a teacher with you.
Yes, and I'm still connected with her on Facebook. And
Okay.
really, it usually happens that I just ask her, "How are you? How are?" Everything. No? Sometimes I just recall her, and then she's there. She replies after 1 or 2 days, but she's there, and she's there. I'm not that tech savvy, like all the
Okay.
things replying. So she takes time to reply, but I still feel connected. Yes, she's the one. And at that time of age, now when a child is growing, you do understand adolescence and other things. Now we at that time the situation and other things now, like I was not able to handle myself because of that
Okay.
war also, and
Right.
all the age also. So I
Right.
find my peace in her. So I remember her, and I can say that she's my second mother.
Oh, that's very nice. And you're very lucky to have, such an affectionate teacher. Um, so good. So nice.
But
Happy for you.
even I
Thank you,
want to
thank you.
share one of the incidents which I would like to share with all definitely,
Yeah, Samir.
and I would like to be share two incidents. First one, I was even discussing about the same with one of my colleagues today in the morning itself. So the time was when I was in grade seven, and I do not have any kind of support.
Okay.
At my family who can like help me out in academics at that level. So till grade 7 I was literally doing somewhat like 60% 70% maximum, and I was always supported by my mother, but due to certain financial conditions I was not like exposed to other sources which can help me out to grow. In grade 8 when I entered, I changed my school, and there was one English teacher out there, and I was the one who used to score somewhat around 45 to 50% maximum in English till grade 7. And you
Okay.
won't believe the score in grade 8 went to 98%
Wow.
in English.
Okay.
She was literally a miraculous person for me. She taught me daily. You won't believe, she gave me paragraphs daily, means daily, and they were
Awesome.
regularly checked out. Second incident is the one whom I can like literally call my second mother. When I was in grade 11 and 12, I never got like exposure towards music, and I had keen interest in singing and playing many instruments, but due to certain circumstances I was not exposed to them. But in grade 11 I was given the opportunity from that particular music teacher to participate in national level singing competition. And
Wow.
I can't express the feelings when she, during the farewell, when I was like going from the school from grade 12 at the farewell day, that particular teacher said one sentence and that touched my heart, and I burst out into tears, and the entire school was like giving me a big applause. And the sentence was, मेरा एक बेटा नहीं पढ़ता है इस स्कूल में, मेरा एक बेटा सगा है, लेकिन मेरे दो बेटे हैं, एक जो मेरा अपना है और एक जिसको मैंने आज अपनाया है.
Wow.
So this taught me that if I am nurtured in such a way, why should not all the students, all the
Absolutely.
coming generations be nurtured in the same way?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Anon taught me all these things, that if you are having that capabilities, brush it, polish, and make it in such a way that you shall be the inspiration for the next generation. So thanks a lot, Anon.
Excellent. Excellent, Samyak. Samyak, you would, you would notice that, one teacher amongst many, just comes along, notices, the talent that is there inside you, and brushes it up, burnishes it, polishes it, and presents you with much more confidence and much more talent that you had earlier. That
Exactly.
is the,
There are
yeah,
that
that's
few
that's
people
the
who
ability
like to
of that good
feel
teacher.
connected. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
also part of competence, Samyak. Most of us fail to recognize, fail to actually, take cognizance of that small spark which lies underneath. That's why talent scouts and talent hunters are so highly rated. They can, even for example, for cricket and all that. So those are the guys who, find out gems from mundane trials. A guy who's
Exactly.
may not be able
Exactly.
to hit centuries and all that, but the way he's connecting, the way his swing is, the way his confidence is while facing a fast bowler, the way his, I'll say the swagger is while facing the spin bowlers, they look for such qualities. They have that, talent. They have that skill. Many years and many years, there comes along one teacher, one odd teacher who has these abilities and who's able to spot talent in you and then bring it up,
Exactly.
nurture it, and take it to the next level.
And the technique to spot it out is very much required, and only a
Absolutely.
few, not even a few, 1 out of 1,000 is having this.
Absolutely, absolutely right. So that is what when I say notice in that competence thing, that is what you guys must notice, right?
Exactly.
It is not just coming and taking a lecture like today. We are just interacting in a virtual manner. Half the guys I can't even see. Half the guys have got their videos off. Half the guys, those icons are so small I can't. I'm concentrating on something else. This is no interaction. So when you actually interact with them offline, you get to know each and every one of them. Shamak, I'll give you an analogy. When we join our regiments, when we are commissioned as second lieutenants nowadays lieutenants, we are made to sleep with the men for 3 weeks, 21 days, right? And it is to understand, and we sleep with the same platoon that we are going to command later. So those 36 boys who are going to be under my command, officially, the minute I become a second lieutenant, I'm a platoon commander. But then the army has such good, practices, traditions, and practice that they make the young second lieutenant stay with those men in their barracks as a Jawan. He doesn't wear his ranks. He stays with them as a Jawan, undergoes the same routine, same khana, same staying, same exercise, same training, same BPT, PPT, all physical exercises, firing, everything else. So he becomes one of them. He gets to know those boys, each and every boy, like the back of his hand. ये स्वरण सिंह है, he belongs to Jalandhar. His parents are in financial problem. His sister is there. It's in Canada. एक छोटा लड़का है who's dealing with drugs. This guy is from Hoshiarpur. That guy is from Pune. उसकी ये problem, उसकी ये problem है. This guy is very good marksman. This guy is good at English. This guy can handle data very well. This guy is an excellent marksman in firing. So the essence lies when a platoon commander commands his platoon, he knows the strengths and weaknesses of each and every one of his assets. All those 36 boys are his assets. And if you do not know the strengths and weaknesses of your command, in this case, your students, how can you nurture, how can you bring out the best in your students? So you have to know them. So, the current concept of having a classroom of 60, 70, 80, that is a circus. That's not a classroom. And I empathize with the teachers today that how can you, in those 40 minutes, how can you actually get to know who's who and who's doing what in your classroom, right? So the first instance, the only thing that's there at the back of your mind is that this is the syllabus and I have to finish it before the pre-boards come, and I have to prepare my class for pre-boards, get a good result one way or the other, and then push them through to the next class and await, with peril and with a lot of trepidation, the next batch to be elevated to my standard and then go through the same routine again. That is not teaching. Teaching is what you mentioned, Samyak. And I hope you have imbibed a lot out of that and you are passing it on
Yeah.
to the students that you have. Okay. So we're coming towards the end of the session now. Now, I want us to move from reflection to action. Reflection, as I said, I hope all of you go back and learn a lot more about emotional intelligence. All these words and those heavy sounding words that I'm using about regulation and reflection, they all form part of emotional intelligence. And if there is one virtue which every good, respectable teacher must possess, that is emotionally intelligence. Emotionally, he or she has to be emotionally intelligent today, right? Okay, so let's move on from reflection to action. You would agree that insight without implementation stays as motivation only, right? And then it disappears. Okay, so just take 30 seconds and write down one small shift that you would like to practice in your teaching in the coming week. It could be, one calmer response, one better question that you would ask, one more intentional preparational habit on your part, one more thoughtful interaction, or one student who needs more indulgence from your side. So we can have these responses coming.
Yes, sir. Keshweta this side.
Yeah.
And what I would like to have more in my students is like, I just want more stories out of them, more connectivity with them. Like, we are mostly indulged with the syllabus, timing, and other things that are going on at back of our head. Okay, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. So I would just like to have more time with my students so that we can interact much better. Like, can understand like 40 minutes of a class, we are bound with many things to be done. So if I would like to have more time with my students, just to have a more connection, or you can say a stronger bond with them, to understand them in a better way.
Okay. Now, before we end, I want to leave you with one final thought. There are more essential aspects of effective teaching that you could include for your own self, for your own self development, for becoming better at what you do. I'd listed out a few in the beginning: credibility, communication, creativity, compassion, critical thinking, challenge, consistency, and clarity. In the end, great teaching is not built only on information. Remember that. It is built on three foundations: integrity, inquiry, and skill. That is, integrity is your character, inquiry is your curiosity, and skill is your competence. It is built on who you are, how you keep learning alive, and how well you help others learn. Students may not remember every lesson we teach, it's a practical thing, but they do remember whether learning in your classroom felt safe or stressful, dead or alive, confusing or meaningful. And that is where character, curiosity, and competence stop being ideas and start becoming the foundation of meaningful teaching. Thank you very much for your time. And more importantly, thank you for the work all the teachers out there you do every day in ensuring that the nation receives well rounded citizens who further strengthen her edifice. Because teaching does not just shape classrooms, it shapes people, it shapes the nation, it shapes the character of the people of the nation. Thank you very much.
So request all the educators. Sir is very active on social media. We forgot this particular very important slide of Sir. So you can follow Sir on YouTube on his Tipsy Talks. He has its own YouTube channel, his Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the links are there in your chat box, which has been posted by a chat moderator. You can go ahead and have a look over it.